Anthropic's new RLCAI model. I've heard it called Madison or Claude. It's based on their 52B model and it aligns with a constitution. This is the OpenAI team back in July 2019. Well, actually, that's not quite correct. This image wasn't big enough, so I used Dolly 2 to outpaint the edges so that it would fit to our 1080p resolution. Here it is. I thought that was okay to do, given that in their latest paper, Point E, the OpenAI team actually used ChatGPT to help them write it. Here's that acknowledgement. But I digress. So this is the OpenAI team. You might recognize their CEO at the back there, Sam Altman. He's still with them, but at least 11 people in this photo have left to form Anthropic. So Sam McClandish, lead GPT-3 paper engineer Tom Brown, Amanda Askell, Jared Kaplan, who gave us the Kaplan scaling laws, which have now been superseded by chinchilla scaling laws. A whole host of them decided that they would pick up sticks and leave OpenAI after the release of GPT-3, so that was towards the end of 2020, and found a new organization, Anthropic, focused on getting us ready for alignment, getting AI up to speed with where humans are. So they call it a safety and alignment organization. They're not focused on creating models. They're focused on, well, they've got one model, they've got the 52B model, but that's kind of just an internal toy that they can use to get everything ready for this safety and alignment between AI and humans. A really fascinating topic, and obviously it's very bleeding edge, it's very important for where we are right now, and to have the key employees from probably the largest artificial intelligence organization in the world leave just to focus on safety and alignment research is fascinating. What they've done very recently in the last few months, I've had it sitting in the back of my mind for a while, so this video might be late for January 2023. What they've done is take their 52B model and give it some rules. They've given it a constitution. They've also leapfrogged everyone who's obsessed with human feedback. Reinforcement learning through human feedback, which is something that OpenAI have done recently. ChatGPT is based on that. InstructGPT is based on that. Google have a version of that. DeepMind are playing around with a version of that. Even Eleuther AI is working on a version of that. But I've always been a little bit iffy on whether that's a pretty cool background. I remember that one. That was my mansion in Phoenix with this like meditation background. I miss it a bit actually. Although we do have better weather here right now in Perth, as everyone is has gone down from 100 Fahrenheit to 110 Fahrenheit. Way down to like wintry weather. We're sitting up towards there today, 33C, 100F. Thanks for joining us after the fun times of the premiere of the 2023 AI report. It was a lot of fun to write. It was a lot of fun to film. Hi to DGTL in Mississippi. Wait, that's not right. Hi to Dan in Mississippi and DGTL saying hi to Mississippi in Phoenix. We've got a few Phoenix people in here. Devonshire in the UK. Scoofy in Montclair, Virginia. 3 from Phoenix. Cool. Kevin in Bristow, Virginia. What else have we got here? David in Southeast Queensland. There's a bunch of you showing up from around the world. Thanks for staying up, for especially the Europeans. This is a chance for you to ask whatever you like. I haven't got a lot prepared for today. We can have a look at phi-2 from Microsoft and some of the new models that appear inside po.com. I still use that nearly as my daily driver. I used to use it exclusively as my daily driver, but now I revert sometimes to ChatGPT. Let me check out our comments here. Anthony in Wyoming, Don in London, Ben in Germany, Peter in Slovakia and Hungary. How can you be in Slovakia and Hungary at the same time? Maybe that's my lack of geography knowledge. Let's jump straight in. Any queries about the report? I'm happy to take them. This was, as we mentioned, generated by Dolly 3, this cover. And I really like the way that it does drawings, pencil drawings, children's drawings, crayon drawings. I mean, this would be better than I could do as a kid or better than I could do right now. And it still blows my mind that this whole thing was created, conceptualized uniquely, without copying anything, without photoshopping anything, without applying any filters or layers. Look at that. How do you get the detail of those birds in using colored pencils? That'd take a little while. One of the things that we didn't flag in the video, but is definitely in the paper, and you can go and download the paper at the link inside the description here, is that when we were talking about agents, I think it was Noam Brown here was talking about some much more accessible examples of agentizing models. Let's throw this in here for a moment. This is his quote. This is a scientist at OpenAI. What inference cost would we pay for a new cancer drug or for a proof of the Riemann hypothesis? Isn't that an interesting question? Ah, that's not showing up on my thing. Sometimes my streaming thing likes to do its own thing, which is lovely. Well, the whole thing is locked. Wonderful. Give me 1 second here, I'm gonna hack it up. All right, it's been hacked. This is Noam Brown. This is the chief, or one of the scientists, sorry, from OpenAI saying, what would we pay for a new cancer drug or for a proof of the Riemann hypothesis if you're in Nerdsville, which is maths, science, physics. You know that we've been looking for a proof for this for quite a while. Interesting. Good times. All right, let's close that one down. Back to our main share here. Let's get this a little bit zoomed in for you. The wonders of live stream. Achievements unlocked by LLMs. I bet you guys know and remember our walkthrough for this, and it was all the way back in April of this year, but it feels like it was years ago. We're saying that when models were approaching GPT-3's full size, they noticed that all of these emergent abilities were popping out. For example, at 13 billion parameters, it was teaching itself arithmetic, debugging, compression. When it got bigger, so the full version of GPT-3, 175 billion parameters, it was good at translating emojis into movies and vice versa, doing linguistics puzzles. It had got university level comprehension or high school level comprehension, metaphor understanding, and physical intuition. It had actually created a world model here at medium scale. When we got larger, and keep in mind this is back in April 2023, we had Palm 1 that was able to do some more things, including elementary math and causal judgment. Now we're in this phase here, extra large. GPT-4 and Gemini can do college level exams, so university level exams, self-critique and reflection, app building, which was amazing to see when they did the demonstration for GPT-4. Greg Brockman showing how he could draw something on a whiteboard or on a piece of paper, take a photo of it, and GPT-4 would go and build that app from scratch. Crazy. Spatial reasoning, advanced creativity, embodiment options. We're seeing these things being put inside various levels of embodiment, not just humanoids, but we've seen it in the Boston Dynamics Spot Dog. I just bought that really cool, actually I bought a few of them. Let's see if we can do a search for this rather than me try and talk about it. So it was the Grok plush toy. By Curio. This is the very first OpenAI partnered toy. And Elon Musk's former partner called it Grok and trademarked that term before he did, and now they're in some sort of, I don't know, arbitration. But there are 3 versions of this. It's backed by, as I said, they've partnered with OpenAI, so it's backed by something like ChatGPT. It needs wireless to work, but you've basically got a plush toy there that you can ask anything and it will respond. Pretty incredible stuff. The 3 that I saw, here we are, Grem, Gabo, and Grok. Or maybe they're not listing Grok anymore. I thought it would be prudent to order one of each. You can only get them in the US, and there was a pre-order available that ended pretty soon. Why did I get onto this? No idea. HeyCurio.com if you want to have a look at that one. Oh, that was embodiment. Well, that's not a good example of embodiment because it can't sense the world and it doesn't have movable arms or legs. Pretend this linked to what I just said. All right, let's have a look at Poe here. POE.com. I think it's $20 a month for the premium, and we've had GPT-4 with priority access, as in they've got their own deployment of GPT-4 there. Claude Instant you can use for 75,000 words. They've just added Gemini Pro in there this morning. Gemini Pro I'm not impressed about. We looked at that last week. It's only about 20 billion parameters, so it's only about the same size as ChatGPT there. ChatGPT up the top left, 20 billion parameters. I think I estimated Gemini Pro as somewhere close to that. Maybe I said 30 billion parameters, but worthwhile noting that if you're using ChatGPT as GPT 3.5 Turbo, you're using something that's 100 times smaller than GPT-4. Please use GPT-4. You'll love it. All right, and then what else have we got in here? Well, Quen is getting a lot of attention. Chinese model from Alibaba, 72 billion parameters, and the llamas are all in there. But let's have a little play with something today. We'll grab any questions before we proceed. High Tides, that's a cool name. I like that name. Can I pick it up though? Here we go. What do you think about GPT-4 being an 8 by 220 billion MOE model? High Tides, you might just be catching up. We've been talking about that for just under a year. But if you'd like to read more about that, you can go to lifearchitect.ai/GPT-4 and you'll see the justification for why we've come up with that. You will see, where have we got our bubbles? We've had that listed in our bubbles for quite a while there. What is probably more interesting, and you've probably already seen it, is the French AI lab Mistral. They brought out Mistral 7B earlier in the year. Recently brought out Mistral as a mixture of experts. They called it Mixtral. I believe it's 7 billion parameter experts. Pretty high performance, the equivalent of about 45 billion parameters, because we can't just multiply them. And now they're saying, as of yesterday, they're going to release a GPT-4 level model in 2024. That'll be exciting. They're an open source company, so we're looking at an open source version of GPT-4 within the next few months. Incredible stuff. Let's see if we can grab some other comments here. Well, I'm going to have to actually select them. You can't just... From J Bavar 32 here. Do you think with multimodal models, AI will be able to hear you speak and see you to be able to evaluate one's emotional state in order to curate its response? I really like that question. Let's take that question away and use it with Gemini Pro inside Poe.com. I have no financial link or any other link with Poe, backed by Quora. I just think it's a fantastic way of integrating all these models at once. So let's use Gemini Pro inside of po.com. You can use this in 3 different ways right now. You can use it for free at bard.google.com, where you can ask it any question. Let's give an example here. We had fun with this one last time. Write control code to turn the lights off in my lounge room. Gemini Pro has a little bit of a think, and then it says, here's a bunch of questions. Not really that useful. Then we have Vertex AI for those that want to give a credit card number. One second, let me actually make sure we've got this working. Oh, there's the model garden, that's what I was looking for. Model garden inside Vertex, we choose Gemini Pro, and we get Language Studio. We'll use all the defaults, ask the same thing, and Gemini Pro gives us, in this case, because it's not the fine-tuned, tweaked version inside Bard, we actually get a real function call. Fascinating. Cool. But today, let's use Po, Gemini Pro, ask the same question. We should get the same answer as the API gave us. I mean, a similar answer. Well, this is nearly the exact same answer. And note here on the right-hand side, it's telling us we've got our context window of 32,000 tokens, which is maybe 28,000 words, something like that. And then in this phase, the model accepts text, image, and video input. So here's a video I took recently of a little friend somewhere here in Western Australia who crawled up to me. I eventually ended up putting some water in my thong for him. Yes, we call them thongs here in Australia. You could call them slippers or flip-flops or whatever you call them in America. This is one of the evolutionary impacts of dinosaurs. This thing was pretty huge. I'm glad I'm not outside because I was protected by a pane of glass in this instance. I wanted to know what this thing was. So let's give this video to Gemini Pro. It's a 33 meg video, and they've got a usage limit here. Restriction of 1 video per message. Usage limit is subject to change. If we had 5G, this would be faster. So in answer to your question, it could be real time. I've got fiber here that's only 100 megabit, maybe 40 megabit upload. So the delay is actually in uploading that video to the model. The model seemed to be pretty quick for me in testing. Of course, given that we're live streaming, it would like to pause for us. Here we go. Gemini Pro says, it's a monitor lizard, a type of reptile that is native to Australia. All of that based on a video. Now, of course, it's probably grabbing frames from the video. Now it's just lying to me. The monitor lizard is basking in the sun. Nope. I'd also like to get a more specific name than just monitor lizard. I don't think it's a Komodo dragon. Anyway, that's an answer to your question there. Multimodality, Gemini are the first to do it with videos. AI will be able to hear you speak and see you to be able to evaluate your emotional state in order to curate its response. Now, in this version of Gemini, we can't actually give it audio, which should be easier than video, but I just wanted to show you what's possible. All right, Ben, let's see if we can pick up your question here. Hi to Ben and hi to your 12-year-old son. My 12-year-old son is here watching and wants to ask what is the best free model that's targeted directly for use by youngsters. That's a really good question. I don't think there are any models that are targeted to youngsters. You can find models that have filtering, but I would be very careful with the model outputs, especially with young developing brains, to make sure that you're happy as a parent with what's actually being output from them. We can compare models though. Let's have a bit of a play. If you've got Poe, and I would recommend Poe, you get all those different options for models. And I will also recommend a lot of the models inside Hugging Face. For example, phi-2 by Microsoft, which is where we're going to start today, is probably the smallest model. You might have seen it in the bottom left-hand corner of my models chart. Mamba, very popular, 2.8 billion parameters. Phi-2, also very popular at 2.7 billion parameters. It's released by Microsoft, kind of hard to find. But let's compare these different model sizes just for fun. And here's I seem to always be wearing hats in these videos. Here's something I just grabbed in a shopping trip. It's supposed to be Life Architect. Obviously, it's the Dodgers World Series 1981. When I was grabbing this from our mall in Perth called Karen Up, the teenager who was serving me had some trouble distinguishing between sizes. This one says 7 3/8, and he was trying to explain which one was bigger between 7 3/8, 7 and 1/4, 7 and 1/2, and he couldn't get it very, very quickly. And I found out that's a standard way of doing things in the US. Let's have a look at this in real life. All right, this is our scratch pad here. This is a bunch of hat sizes. It's pretty difficult to see at a glance which one is the biggest, right? This is in like numerator order rather than actual fraction or actual number order. Let's use a couple of different models to see if it can figure this stuff out. And you can demo phi-2 yourself for free. A lot of these models on Hugging Face are for free. Yes, we know that 7 7/8 is the biggest, but what is the actual order here? So phi is being initialized in the background. It says it's 1.57 gigabytes, so hopefully you could run this yourself in RAM. Let's run this again. Put these in order. And that's the intention of phi, is to be able to put this on a smart device, put it on your phone, put it on even on your watch. Phi-2 is giving this a go. The order should be, I think he's nearly right. He's reversed this one. 7 3/4, 7 5/8. Now this is the smallest model that I could get my hands on. There are probably slightly smaller ones. There's a couple of 100 million parameter models. This is the smallest and the latest. Let's put this in the next smallest and see how it goes. What is the next smallest, Alan? Is it going to be just Mistral? Should we just grab Mistral? Yeah, that sounds good. Start with our priming question. Thickness of vinyl records. I don't think so. Put these in order. That's a great answer though for a tiny model, 7 billion parameters. I'm just going to clean this up because it's grabbed some stuff from its context that I don't like, and we'll tell them that it's hats. Seven and a half, 7 5/8, but we've got 7 3/4 first. So the 7 billion parameter model, back to our emergent abilities, is not fantastic at arithmetic or not fantastic at numbers in general. It needs to be a bit bigger than 7 billion parameters. Let's grab our next one. Well, ChatGPT is the best of the best at the moment for its size, 20 billion parameters. But I do want to just give it to Llama for 1 second. What are these? Don't know what's going on with the spacing here. I blame Poe for that. This is, okay, so it's converted everything into decimal, which is kind of cool. And let's ask it to put it in order. With the context, it should be okay. 1/8, 1/4, 1/2. It's got these in reverse again. 3/4 and then 5/8. All right, we're at 13 billion parameters. Let's step up to the next one. I know ChatGPT is going to get it because Brockman and Ilya and all the smart people at OpenAI tuned this within an inch of its life. Get it? Inch? What are these? 20 billion parameters. Hats, shoe sizes, clothing sizes. I like that answer. 1/8, 1/4. Oh, it got very confused there. 3/8 before half, and then it gets the rest of them right. ChatGPT, you've let me down. Let's try another one. Let's step up where we were at 20 billion parameters. Let's give Gemini a go. I did note something really interesting. So before we, oh no, let's do Gemini first. Oh no, confusing myself. Let's do Palm first. What I noted was that Palm and Gemini answered nearly the same for this question, even though Palm's 320 billion parameters. Now, what's pretty interesting here is that it dives into its data set and finds an additional size, 3/8. This was not in our query. So let's reference the C4. So Palm, or pretty much every model, was trained with the Common Crawl C4. I was checking on the fact that these hat sizes must be in the Common Crawl, and you can go and search on that by entering a query to see if it was in the original data set. And it appears quite a bit. This reference to hat sizes gives conversion to metric, puts it into decimal. There's references all the way through the data set. And so that's what Palm has gone and thought about and referenced from the data set. You notice the smaller models didn't do that. Let's do the same thing with Gemini. And again, we've got this 3/8 coming out of nowhere. But it's also dropped the 3/4. It just said, all right, we don't need that. I'll pull another number out of my hat. Get it? All right, it's comedy hour here. Yeah, so there is a big similarity, for me anyway, and what I can see, between Palm 340B and Gemini, which is probably 1.5 trillion parameters. At least that's what we got in the bubbles diagram, which just disappeared because of my timer. You would think that when Gemini was created, that they used learnings from both the Google Brain team or the Google AI team, who gave us Palm and Palm 2, and the DeepMind team, who gave us Chinchilla and a lot of other things. But interestingly, there seems to be a similarity between the outputs of Palm 2 and Gemini Pro. Interesting. You heard it here first. Let's try our next step up, because I'm already bored with that one. We've gone from 340B, So I suppose we have to go straight to GPT-4, and we'll start it with the question, what is this? And see if it can distinguish that these aren't shoes, they are hats. Oh, it could also be lumber or pipes or belts or tools. And its best guess is hat sizes. I wanted to jump into the official, well, not the official, the most popular platform for ChatGPT at the moment, or for GPT-4, I should say, and it's the chat.openai.com interface. Here it is. I'll show you my built-in custom instructions because they've changed very slightly. The first one, never use the web or browser. This is pulling down the quality of LLM responses by trying to go out to Bing. And I've repeated that in the how would you like ChatGPT to respond by saying never use the web or browser and be terse. Those are my two custom instructions. If you'd like to grab those as well, I can certainly speak to the fact that they're both successful. Let's grab our original query to GPT-4 and we'll put this into the ChatGPT-4 interface. And when it's got the custom instruction of be terse, it is obviously very terse, very short, very concise. These are hat sizes, Alan. All right, put these in order. Let's grab our exact prompt so that we're getting fair comparisons. So we only gave it 6 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's gone and added our 3/8, which is part of the standard hat measurements. And otherwise, I think it's perfect. 1/2, 1/5, 5/8, 3/4, 7/8. Fascinating. There you go. GPT-4, that massive model that's way bigger than anything else, gets this one very right. Wouldn't be surprised. A few reasons that we've done this, Greg, is to prove our achievements unlocked, officially called emergent abilities, but also to look at referencing data sets or reasoning. Sometimes it's referencing the original data set. So if you look at the GPT-4 outputs and the Gemini outputs, it went and grabbed something from the common crawl that it had been trained on. Now, I'm not saying it memorized the common crawl, it absolutely didn't, but it had made connections between these cap sizes that were used as part of its data set. Cool. Kinshuk. Is it right to make LLMs do arithmetic? Is the grammar of maths and language the same? Well, I don't know about right or wrong making LLMs to do anything, but we do know that as of GPT-3 even, we had very successful maths despite the fact that it was never taught how to do maths. I wonder if I have access to grab the GPT-3 paper here. It was in the original GPT-3 paper that OpenAI said, well, it couldn't have memorized this. It actually taught itself to do maths, which is obviously pretty frightening, or at least pretty interesting. And let's go and grab that reference. It's an older reference now because GPT-3 was 3.5 years ago, something like that. But if you grab the original paper, not the camera-ready paper, you'll see that, what should we look for here? This is single-digit numbers. They said to test GPT-3's ability to perform simple arithmetic, we developed a battery of tests. And it's this lump of text here that we want to look at to spot check whether GPT-3 is simply memorizing problems. We took the 3-digit arithmetic problems in our test set, searched for them in our training data, and they didn't exist. For example, out of 2,000 triple-digit arithmetic problems, we found only 17 matches, 0.8%, and for subtraction, 0.1%, suggesting it's actually attempting to perform the relevant computation rather than memorizing a table. Fascinating. For me, this is just a cool example of sharing prompts between models or testing prompts across different models to see what is possible. And I'd recommend that you try it yourself. All of this stuff that I do here is publicly available. Alan, for fun, search, can it be applied to other areas outside of maths? And also, oh, that's so kind of you. Fun search. So Gemini, let's go to lifearchitect.ai/AGI. Gemini was not the only big revelation this month. Obviously, it tipped our countdown towards artificial general intelligence over quite a bit, moved it from 56% to 61%. But then DeepMind, I suppose they were a bit bored. They went, we've got Gemini done now, let's go and do some other stuff. No, it was a completely different team. This thing, fun search or function search, runs through numbers as a very, or functions as a very basic way of describing it. And it's able to play around with those numbers using a pre-trained large language model. They actually used Palm 2 340B here, the Cody version of it, and they've said that this is applicable to a lot of different use cases. So you had people like Professor Terry Tao that we mentioned, who was saying this is a huge breakthrough. It's his favorite problem, the CAPSET problem, and this solved it in different ways. The quote that I liked in here, and you'll see the full analysis of this in the memo, but the quote I liked here was that we could apply this in different industrial systems, and we quoted this in the end of year report video. What was our question again? I suppose that answers the question. It can be applied to other areas outside of maths. My understanding of it is that it's able to use the large language model to, don't know if there is a easy way to explain it, but it was able to essentially create a program via the large language model that was going to solve this function set and develop new solutions. I've seen examples or thought of examples of this, how this could be applied in manufacturing, in various physics examples, not just maths. But I liked the fact that it was, in their quote, the first time that a genuine new scientific discovery has been made by a large language model. It's not in the training data. It wasn't even known, these new maths discoveries solving our function search challenge and finding new solutions. There was some analysis by quite a few people. Some people wanted to push it down a little bit and say, well, it's not that cool, or we've seen some of those solutions before. But for DeepMind to go on record that this is a big discovery, I think is telling, and the scientists there are pretty smart. This is an interesting one. Have a look out for this being applied across different industries. I'll be watching for it as well to see where else it shows up. Leave our countdown up for a moment while we have a look through our questions. I'm not across any other podcasts. This was an interesting one. In my paper on Gemini, and you can go and read about that at lifearchitect.ai/Gemini-report, I proposed that based on the information, we were going to see AlphaGo built into Gemini, but it was kind of the reverse. They built Gemini into a version of Alpha Code, which was fascinating. This report's pretty intense. Let's have a look at that paper if we can get it. Oh, I've probably got the paper here anyway. This is the technical report, very short, 7 pages, talking about how they used Gemini to power the model. So a large language model backing a system, I call the Alpha series a system, to be able to help it essentially write code. And it did that in such an incredible way. You see some of the stats here where it was outperforming humans in code forces. Alpha Code solved 43% of the competition problems. Pretty impressive. Hopefully that answers your question. See if we can pull up the Gemini paper actually. There's our Gemini system paper. All right, here we go. So this is the paper that we released about Gemini a few months before it was, or a couple of months before it was brought out. And there's a table in here that delves into the different alpha systems. These are all fascinating. You've probably seen the AlphaGo documentary, one of the first systems there, 2015. And we, as of September, didn't have AlphaCode 2, but we did have a couple of these others, AlphaCode 1, Alpha Tensor from October last year. These systems are highly specialized, so that's why we called this report a general specialist, where now was almost the reverse of what we thought was going to happen, is Gemini is being used to back other models, other systems. All right, moving right along. Apple came out with a paper just this week called HUGS. Apple actually do a lot in the machine learning field. In this one, they are getting ready for avatars inside of AR and VR, and also using some of the hardware capabilities of your phone. So they've got this training video. They have to see a full body shot of a person, and then they can create an avatar. The same for putting a novel view and pose on a new scene. Isn't that interesting? Let's have a look at a more outrageous version than that. This is Apple's video here. Training on the left, 3 different people, and the render on the right, making them all dance in a new scene background. This looks like early days, but consider that this might be something that they build in pretty rapidly into the Apple Vision Pro and its successors. I know there's going to be cheaper versions of that pro-grade hardware coming out in 2024. Going to be pretty interesting. If you'd like to read the paper, it's available on Archive. I thought it was pretty fascinating that this was being worked on, that they're working on avatars using Nerf. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes at Apple, but their focus is just so much different than mine or than on the world of large language models. But we need people to be working on different things. And this one with Max Planck is getting us ready for the capabilities of our cool hardware. That's an Apple stand-up meeting. So get prepared to be able to see these movable avatars of you inside of the Apple Vision Pro and beyond. Won't say too much more about that. It's not my specialty, but I did want to mention it. It's a fun one. All right, we're already 45 minutes of the way through. Any other questions about the report or anything else? And I will see if I can grab them here. I don't know how to pull this comment out easily, so I will just grab a pop-up for us. Your end-of-year summary mentioned regulations on the printing press holding back humanity. What regulations are holding back AI at the moment? Why do we not like them? There's a lot of people that love talking about this, particularly in the group that gathers for the memo. We have a round table. There's a couple of members there that love talking about the policy and the governance of AI. Have a look at what's happening with the EU regulations. They are concerning in that there are some really onerous rules there for people that want to train and use large language models, to the extent that, and I want to make sure I get this right, so please go and check after I give my plain English summary. If you are creating a large model over about, say, 300 billion parameters using a particular amount of compute, you have to inform the EU. You have to tell them that you're doing it. They have to have some sort of audit of it. It's really, really silly. Inside of China and inside of the US, there's a lot of stuff going on about declaring what's inside the data set, and then in both of those regions, being responsible, as the AI lab, being responsible for the outputs of those models. That doesn't sound right to me, but that's what the EU is proposing as well, and making that a bit more strict, the same way that they did for GDPR. And look how that turned out. All right, next question. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff there. I mean, Mistral that we just mentioned are doing some fascinating work. They are one of the few that are doing stuff inside of the EU. The other one that I can think of off the top of my head is Aleph Alpha out of Germany. Oh, this isn't very useful. Well, I'd love to give you an official news source for this, but this is what we mentioned very briefly earlier, that, here we go, Mistral will release an open source version of GPT-4 sized model in 2024. And the fact that we've got access to Mistral is pretty impressive. Let's go and grab this one again. There was talk of this being kind of locked down by, oh no, sorry, I'm thinking of Mistral Medium. Mistral Medium is the larger model. I do have this in my planets, my new bubbles chart, and you'll see it down there at the bottom right, maybe 180 billion parameters-ish, and they have locked that one down for now. But the fact that we've got access to Mistral itself is kind of cool with me. Let's try one of my standard prompts here. You're an aggressive CRO. Assess the top 10 risks. Let's see what we can do here. The business is a major Australian landscaping company. Let's see if we can get anything here about monitors. Let me zoom out a little bit here. Physical injury, property damage. Maybe it was the physical injury is good enough. I don't like how it's done our Unicode dots here, but it's still pretty impressive what it's done here. 7 billion parameter experts to come up with our output here. And Mistral have said this is not the equivalent of 8 times 7, but it might be the equivalent of perhaps 45 billion parameters. Don't know how they did their calculations, but an interesting result nonetheless. Ah, my comment thing's broken again. I forgot about that. Not Mistral. Let's grab this guy. Justin says, I have a 2-year-old nephew. How old do you think he should be before I show him the power of ChatGPT? I did show him pictures that I got from Dolly. Well, what about the plush toys that we just looked at? They weren't cheap, actually. I will definitely grant you that. If I still got this available. Curio. HeyCurio.com. I would imagine, but I wouldn't be 100%, that the filtering on this is more extreme than it is in the standard GPT, because it's designed obviously for toddlers, but I wouldn't be sure about that. I wouldn't be providing any advice anyway, but look, it would be something that I would at least consider. It says ages 3+ for the little grok thing. ChatGPT, I don't know about an age limit. This one says our operating system merges all ages fun with G-rated content, anonymity, and privacy and security. It's a lot of things. And there's mention in here, oh, here we go. There's mention in here about the fact that they are the first to partner with OpenAI. Wonder if it's in the FAQs. No, sorry. I'm not going to search for that anymore. HeyCurio.com. All right, Ben's got a fun political statement for us. I think the EU will get the message when the CCP suddenly starts doing anything they want with AI assistance and EU can't counter it. Then they'll wish they'd been more ambitious, my opinion. I like this take, but I would temper it maybe with the CNN article today on GPT-4 versus Ernie 4. We'll talk about this, oh sorry, not today, this week. We'll talk about this in the next version of the memo. Ernie 4.0 beats GPT-4 on certain prompts, and then it gets completely lost, especially when it's asked about, you know, things that it can't be asked about, the things we all know that are outright forbidden, and it actually shuts down. The bot closed the query box. This is in Ernie 4.0 and says, change the topic and start again. Same thing for asking about a president wanting to be a president for life, to the extent that CNN's account was blocked. Too many violations of relevant regulations. So I think there's a balance here. Yes, China is faster than the US with development, and China has some really impressive models. When we're looking at the Bubbles model here, the two there at the lower left, Yuan 2.0, Intern LM, as well as Ernie at the, at the lower right, Ernie at the top left, are big Chinese models, famous Chinese models. And in some cases, like Ernie 4.0, they are outperforming what we've got here in the West. It's just that they're choosing to do censorship the Chinese way, which is basically give it a word list. If anyone hits that word list, they're out. Unfortunate. But absolutely, they will be one of the contenders for achieving AGI first. And of course, they will get all of the economic improvements that come with that. And there are a lot. Imagine being able to increase your productivity, your GDP, by 2x, soon to be 1000x. We've got this AGI, where will AGI be born slide that I'm sure you have seen. Oh, it just died. Here it is. Where will AGI be born? I've got Baidu there sitting up at the green battery level because they've come so far. But there are a few contenders in China. ByteDance were just in the news for being banned by OpenAI for using GPT-4 to train their models. Tencent, Alibaba's doing a lot of cool stuff, including the Quen model. O1.ai was getting a lot of attention because of their investor. And then, of course, there's everyone we know about here in the West. Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, Amazon with their massive Olympus model being trained as we speak. Anthropic with Claude, Meta AI with all their open source offerings. And XAI, which is still getting its start. And I mean, Grok doesn't really count at the moment, but they've certainly got a lot of the brain power and a lot of the hardware power to be a contender for the birth of AGI. Awesome. Jason, I think we already addressed this in a previous live stream. There was a Gemini demonstration that was absolutely edited together. They showed the making of it. They essentially just dramatized what would have been a really boring text demonstration or putting attachments inside of a text box. So they dramatized it in the same way that I was doing for Lita. I took the text and recreated that conversation. The difference is with Lita, I was 100% rigorous in getting the exact prompt every time and then responding naturally. And Google DeepMind were not 100% rigorous. They, in fact, sometimes snipped the prompts down to make them more palatable to the public, to the general public. Good question. I don't have any autogen examples for you at the moment, Lawrence. EU is famously stubborn about regulation. Yes, they certainly are. They seem to love it. Amazon doing some cool stuff. Thanks, BT. Let's grab our examples again. Oh, the final, which GPT-4 got, the final order for this was something like this, and you can throw a 3/8 in there as well. Ducking around a little bit. TED Talk on threat to chip development and delivery for the rest of the world. Absolutely. It's a really big issue discussed in full in the memo. We've got these massive policy sections. Sometimes there are a few pages with discussions on that. TSMC at the moment, they are the big guys. They are replicating their 3 nanometer process in Arizona. And you can read more about that, I suppose, by Googling it. But there are not many contenders for that size. There are now a lot of the big labs trying to catch up with AI ready chips like Intel's Gaudi 3. And then even AMD have an AI chip. We talk about all of this once again in the memo. Not all of it is right inside my head as we speak. But there's some fascinating stuff out there for all of the big contenders. Not just Intel and AMD, but the smaller guys as well. The kind of guys that would supply to the chips in your phone, the chips in your watch, Awesome. Thanks for joining us. A lot of you have been with us for a few years, and a lot of you have also been with us today for an hour and a half or so. Thanks for watching our live premiered version of the 2023 AI report. You can read that in full at lifearchitect.ai. And thanks for sticking around, just for playing around with hat sizes and different prompts that you can play with. Hope there's something useful in there for you. I'd love to issue an invite to you here, our second to last live stream for the year, to come and join us at the memo, lifearchitect.ai/memo. Would love to have you as a reader. And we're getting ready for 2024. Weeks, days away. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us once again. Great to have you here. And I will see you for what should be the last live stream of 2023. Same time next week. Thanks.
Did you see the memo about this?
Yeah, I have the memo right here.
Superintelligence is unfolding at lightning pace. Read my industry-grade analysis of AI that matters as it happens in plain English, the memo.
Yeah. Did you get that memo?
Yeah, I got the memo.
Get the inside look as AI models are embodied into humanoids, AI's IQ increases to nearly perfect, and bleeding-edge use cases expand to the entire world.
Yeah. Didn't you get that memo?
Editions are sent to subscribers at Fortune 500s, major governments, and people like you. lifearchitect.ai/memo.
I have the memo.